Hi everyone, welcome back to the Genus Brewing channel. It is Hump Day! So I am brewing some beer on Hump Day. I am brewing what I'm going to call a kind of a throwback style IPA, something reminiscent of those IPAs that we had back circa like 2000s, early 2000s. West Coast style, very, very malty backbones to them, but then also kind of played with very piney type hops to punch through the sort of sweet, caramely flavor of the malt in there. So I'm going to be giving you a breakdown today of the recipe that I am brewing that's mashing right behind me as I speak. So let's, without further ado, get into it. So to start with, I have a very simple grain bill. Probably simpler than most West Coast style IPAs, but basically I have, for one barrel batch, I'm working with 55 pounds of Pale 2-Row and then 25 pounds of Red X. This is a malt I've used in the past. It is absolutely delicious. It's as if, say, Caramel 60 made love to Victory and like a dark Munich malt, and they all had a baby that created this wonderful malt that has a really, really great, gorgeous red color to it, obviously, with the name, but also has a phenomenal, rich, sort of sweet-ish, but not nearly as sweet as like a caramel malt, biscuity, roasty, that cookie flavor that a dark Munich might add to the beer, and overall just a delicious malt. So having about, 31% of this malt in here is going to give this beer a really nice rich red color as well as a nice malty flavor. And that's kind of what those beers are trying to emulate. Next, we're going to go on to our water chem, actually. I'm going to skip down here a little bit. So water chem's important in doing a classic West Coast beer. So we've talked in other videos, I'm sure there's one I can probably post somewhere up here, I think, about calcium chloride and then also gypsum, which is calcium sulfate. And sulfates and chlorides and the ratios of those flopping around can either really, really push hops through, make a beer really, really pungently hoppy, make it bitter, or they can do the opposite. They can make a beer really round, really soft, and sort of subdue any of the hops that you're adding into it. So this one, you can see I have 35 grams of gypsum and only 13 grams of the calcium chloride. So that's going to give me way more gypsum, way more sulfate than the chloride, and that's going to really punch through these hops. All right, on to the hops themselves. So let's talk a little bit about our hop schedule. It's pretty simple. Warrior as my bittering hop. We got a bunch of it. I'm going to use it. And then we're going to use a combination of Chinook and Centennial here. So if you look here, I've got, for the boil, other than my bittering, I have a 15 and a 5-minute addition. So that's not going to give me a whole lot of aroma, but it's going to give me a lot of flavor. The Chinook and Centennial both combine to really, really create those sort of piney, resinous notes, especially Chinook. Also, both of them have really, really high levels of cohumulone content. And I'm sure I've talked before about this, but cohumulone is a hop oil that tends to be especially sharp and bitter. And that's going to punch through that otherwise sweet malty backbone of the beer. And then I do have a Cascade addition for my dry hop. That's just going to help kind of push through a little bit of those more aromatic, floral, sweet, and maybe grapefruity notes. This should balance out so that the beer doesn't get too dry and piney. You notice I'm actually bittering this pretty heavily. If I scroll up, you can see, what's my calculator spitting out? 94 IBUs. So this beer, I can tell you right now, is not going to be nearly that bitter, but it will definitely have a bitter punch to it. I assume it's probably going to fall somewhere in the 60 to 70 IBU range, which is pretty bitter for most beers. These calculators always tend to overshoot what your bitterness is, especially since I'm going to be bagging these hops today, so I tend not to get as much utilization. So my yeast is kind of the only thing I'm not doing traditionally. I'm using Imperial A24, which is their dry hop strain. This has been just a phenomenal strain, produces some really, really nice ester characters that will really complement any hop that you're throwing into a beer. I think this is actually, if I remember correctly, a combination of 2 strains, so it is a blend, but creates just a really great flavor profile. If you wanted to go more traditional, good old Chico strain, you know, West Coast, USO 5, 1056, flagship, I think. That would be the traditional strain, but this one's going to give me a great flavor profile. It might even actually push forward the malt a little bit, and kind of some of those, a little bit of like almost the prune characteristic that you can also get off of Red X. All right, I think that sums it up today. Hopefully you all have a great hump day, and I will get this video out very fast. Until next time, like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know if you want me to do more of these recipe breakdowns for you, and we'll see you next time on Genus Brewing. Have a tea.